Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and I'm super excited today. We have a repeat guest, someone who was on earlier this year, but we're going to talk about something that's a little outside the publishing world, but is probably affecting a lot of you in the business world right now. But before we get started, I want to remind you, run over to YouTube, subscribe to us, Superbrand Publishing. You can see all of the video from these podcasts if you're listening on one of the podcast stations. You can actually see the video over there, see these people. And then don't forget to take our Promote, Profit, Publish quiz, www.promoteprofitpublishquiz.com. Find out if you are really ready for publishing. Have you put all those pieces in place? I know you're probably working on the book, but what about an audience? Who's going to read it? All of this does not happen by chance. So today's guest is Ryann Dowdy. Ryann is a sales expert who helps 7- and 8-figure CEOs generate daily sales on demand without more of their time by building and training high-performing sales team. Ryann is passionate about helping successful business owners take back control of the revenue in their business, their time, and their freedom by building a profitable sales team. With her business partner, Kelly Roach, they are on a mission to free CEOs from the role of salesperson in their business. Before starting her own business, Ryann spent 15 years in the corporate world building multi-million-dollar sales organizations for startups in the digital marketing and advertising space. From sales rep to individual contributor, the director of sales, Ryann has mentored, managed, and trained thousands of sales reps. Ryann's first crack at entrepreneurship was the uncensored consulting, where she helped hundreds of women get their first clients, leave their day jobs, and take back control of their lives. By teaching tried and true sales strategies that aren't dependent on social media or trendy tactics, Ryann focuses on the art of building relationships and human-to-human connection, which is so important about what we're going to talk about today. So thank you.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about the Great Resignation that's going on right now. I know for us, it has impacted our business wildly because people are quitting their jobs right and left and deciding to be entrepreneurs and online entrepreneurs at that. So we are getting a lot of business from these people who in the past they've been a cog in a bigger corporate wheel. And now they're learning everything it takes. So talk about that to us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my first business, I worked with new entrepreneurs, and that's kind of where I started to learn about all of these people leaving the corporate world, right? So this was back in 2017. And I found it a lot, I lived in the world of serving women, and it was a lot of moms, right, who were like, hey, I want to contribute financially to my family, but the traditional corporate environment did not allow them to, do the things they wanted to do, be moms, be good at their job, contribute financially, et cetera. So more and more women, they're like, yeah, I'm just going to go freelance. I'm just going to go do my own thing. And I didn't even know at the time, Juliet, that was a thing. And I think that it was happening then, and then COVID, put the gas on it big time, when all of these people who thought the idea of being an entrepreneur, starting their own thing, was super risky. And then they realized that, our entire sense of security is, made up in our head anyway. And so they realized, well, yeah, now is the time to do this. It gave people more time at home, less time commuting, the idea of having a little bit more control over their schedule. So, the data is telling us that literally half of the workforce will be freelance. I think it's by 2027 is the data.
Yeah. And we're working towards that rapidly. Just in the month of April of this year, 2020, not 2021, a record 13 million workers, which was 8.6% of the workforce, was laid off. And the quit rate, especially for women, has dropped off even more dramatically, which is, they talk about a lot about, we need women in the workforce, but women are coming up with different priorities now that they've spent time at home. I mean, you see people that are either really loving their families and don't want that corporate grind anymore, or women who are just saying, I'm needed at home more than I'm needed at work.
Yeah. Or just the idea that, I think for some people, and this is a position I was in, Juliet, when I finally left my job, it was never about not working for me, right? I was never designed to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't do the nap time hustle thing. That was never my thing. But for me, it was about control, right? I can control when I worked, how much I worked, the type of people that I worked with. So that's really what I see a lot of. It's not so much like, I don't want to be part of the workforce, or I don't want to make money, or I don't need to contribute to my family financially. It's more about, I can contribute to myself, to my family financially, and not be stuck in this archaic environment of, being in an office from 8 to 5, dropping our kids off at daycare at 7 and not seeing them till 6 and all of that. So I don't think it's as much as like, women are, staying home to just raise children. I think that women are realizing that they can make as much money, if not more, on their own time and schedule, and not in this, not working for someone else.
I think that's so true. And I sort of did a longer transition than you did with that. I actually went from corporate America to being a real estate broker. Right. And so it was more of a local sort of thing, but it's so much different than the generation before me, my parents' generation, where I actually did have that control. My parents rarely were able to make a swimming event, a volleyball event, and I went to all of my children's events. And I think that was one of the things that really made it for me is all that extra hands-on with my kids that my parents didn't necessarily have. And same with me, there was no intention of, I can't even imagine retiring. I'm 60 years old and like, I don't know what I do. I probably golf a lot, but how many times a day can you play golf? Like, so, I think it's even more than that. So you and I have been doing this a while, and we've seen the expectations of a lot of people going through this great resignation, starting their own businesses, and then finding out that there's a lot they don't know because they haven't been exposed to all aspects of that corporate entity, that giant octopus that they worked for. So let's talk about some of those things that some of these people might be learning about. For instance, economics.
Right. Oh yeah, no, and I think I even made that mistake. So it's interesting, right? We all take the skill set that we had and we take it to our business. So for me, like I knew sales and marketing, right? Like, and to me, that was always the most important part of the company, right? Because if we can't market, if we can't sell, we don't have a business. And that served me for a little while. And I was like, well, there's a whole lot of stuff over here that needs to happen, right? Things like, finance, when it comes to the point of hiring, it's HR, it's legal, it's, all different parts and pieces to your business, taxes, and just crazy and interesting things that you never really, thought about. Or if you're not a marketer, you have to learn how to market, right? If you're not a salesperson, you have to learn how to sell. And I find that seems to be one of the biggest challenges people have is so many people that are starting businesses are starting them because they are doers, right? Because they can do the work that people need done. But then, that's such a small fraction of our business is the actual work that we do. Especially when you're first getting started and you're a solopreneur, you're the doer, your operations, your finance, your HR, your sales, and your marketing, and you started your business for one reason. So I think that's just, a learning curve. And good news is we have access to more information now than we ever did before. But I do see that people get kind of that deer in headlights about like, oh gosh, there's a whole lot more to this than I thought that there was.
Yeah. I always talk about how, that first day we start our own business, we sit down and, we're in like our khakis and our, we're all nicely groomed and we're so excited. And by month 4, like we haven't showered, we're ragged, the dog is in the corner looking at you like, dude, just shower already and feed me. Like you don't realize how much it actually takes to start a business. And one of the shockers for me when I went into real estate, and remember that was just sort of my mini transition before I got into this bigger business, was, what do you mean I have to match those taxes? Like I never had to when I got a paycheck, like right. Social Security and state disability and all those. It's like, you always complain, that 7.5% or whatever it was came out of my check, but what do you mean it's 15 now? It's
Yeah, all of that is crazy. And, but I also think of it, not to terrify anybody of this, I also find now, it's funny, literally before we got on to record this, I was asked by a college student who's studying sales, because sales is my thing, obviously. And we got on the phone and she's considering career options and all this different stuff. And she asked me why I chose to start a business versus staying in sales, right? Because as a salesperson, you're in control of your income as much as an entrepreneur is, right? It's a heck of a lot less stressful and you have to wear way fewer hats. So like, why become an entrepreneur? And for me, like the answer to the question, Juliet, which I don't think I realized I knew, was that it now allows me to create employment that doesn't look like what it did before.
Yeah.
Right. Like I can now, like, so as much as it's extremely challenging to wade through HR and taxes and all the other stuff, it's so cool to now be able to employ other people and now be able to create a work environment where they can thrive, right? Because I don't believe that entrepreneurship is for everybody. I don't think just because you have a skill set, you should be a business owner. I don't. And it's so funny because I encourage entrepreneurship, but I also believe that we need employees too, right? Like I need employees for my business to run. So for me, but what I want to do is I want to create a workplace where it's not archaic. It's not based on whatever it was a bajillion years ago. It's not like all of these layers of management. And, like the woman asked me in the interview, like, what do you think the biggest disconnect or the biggest communication problem in your industry? And I took it from a sales perspective and I said, communication of expectations. And she says, like, what about internally though? And it was like, I remember when I worked for big companies, nobody ever asked me, like, I never knew what we were working for other than to make money.
Right.
Like, was like, what is your job here? I'm like, well, I'm in sales. My job is to make money, right? I never felt like it was to make an impact. I never got, like, nobody ever told me this is why your work is important. So for me, I want to create an organization where my people know why their work is important and why they are important, and allow them to be the best version of themselves and still allow them to pick their kids up at school and drop them off and do all the things that they want to do. And I think when we create workplaces like that, like that's where true change happens. And that is, like, I feel like one of my bigger picture purposes of being an entrepreneur is not just to serve the clients that I get to serve, but to create really cool places to work for those people.
Well, not only that, let's jump into, that was such a great segue and you didn't even know it. Why are people doing this with their careers? One of them is their work conditions. There are a lot of places right now where we've got the email on our phone, or we've got, it's turned from an 8-hour go in and leave to a 24/7 job. Long-term goals. So, a lot of places decided to bring their workers back in, and people said, no, I like it when I can work from home. Think about that. I mean, where you live and sort of where I live is nothing like when I lived in California.
Sure.
And, a place that's, 5 miles away is a 20-minute hellish commute every day. Like you literally pick that time back up. And I remember one of the first people I talked to when COVID hit that wanted to start his own business was like, I have 2 hours extra a day now that I'm not on the freeway. And I actually said, so what are you doing with that? And he said, I'm drinking. So hopefully he straightened that out, but that's the kind of thing people are looking at is I have 2 hours of my life back.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's way more than 2 hours. Let's not kid, because when you work from home, because I mean, the data, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but the data was we were never working a full 8 hours in the office anyway, Julia.
Right.
Right. Like we were in the office for 8 hours, but we were not getting 8 hours of productivity.
Right.
So not only are we getting back that time that wasn't productive when we were scrolling on social media, but now we're able to do stuff with that time, like laundry or clean your house or run to the grocery store or do all that other stuff. So for me, my guess is it's not just 2 hours. My guess is it's probably upwards of, you're getting a whole day back by being able to be at home and you're being just as productive. No question.
That is so true, because there's nothing like when I'm working at home every day, my washing machine's going. I take a break between calls to fold. Like there is, and I have more time on the weekends to do what I want to do, and setting my own hours. So I don't know about you, but I'm a morning person. So I get up and work in the morning. I'm usually off by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon if I don't have clients that are on a later time.
Yep. No, I'm the same way. And it took me a while to get there. Like when I first became an entrepreneur, I still worked 9 to 5. And I was like, what am I doing?
Right.
And then even still, I moved some things around, and now I still just a couple of weeks ago made another shift to my schedule to move my workout to the afternoon because I was like, I'm wasting my most productive time, like where my brain is the sharpest, not wasting it working out, but I was like, I should be in front of my computer working. I can get more done in an hour in the morning than I can get 2 in the afternoon. So I just shifted now to like move my workout to that 3 o'clock time slot. And it's still an investment, but I have that choice.
Yeah. And I actually do that depending on the season. So we're coming up on winter. I hate snow, you guys. Yeah. Ask me where I live in Utah. I hate snow. But now is when I will really get to work early in the morning. And then my exercise is shifted to the afternoon when it's a little bit warm enough to go outside and actually run or walk and stuff. So there are a lot of things to it. One of the things that struck me on a call today was new businesses with inventory. And we were having a conversation about the fact that everybody thinks entrepreneurship is easy, super, super easy. It is not. There are ups and downs. And we were actually talking about Brian Smith's book. I don't know if you've ever read it, Birth of a Brand. He's the founder of Uggs. And if you read that book, you probably wouldn't want to start your own business because it really gets into the ups, the downs, the company losses, the inventory, and all that. So how do we get all these people who've come from this corporate environment to understand that this is going to be the key to freedom, but it's not easy?
I think it's just, we just keep talking about it. And I have intentionally in my marketing over the years, Juliet, have leaned into that it's not easy and it's not for everyone. Because I think that there are a lot of marketing messages that are like, it's so easy, right? Like just show up, you can work a couple hours, you can build a business, from the beach in Bali, doing whatever you want, all the other stuff. And so to me, I lean into the idea that this is hard. Like it's going to be some of the hardest stuff you will ever do, but if you do it and you stick to it, so here's another fun stat, right? We've got bajillions of people leaving the corporate world, but the data tells us that only 2% of businesses make it to 7 figures. And I only know the stat for female businesses, but only 12% of female-owned businesses make it to 6, which means we got a whole lot of people working from home that ain't making any money. Right. So I think that is the piece. And then then there's like this whole pride issue of like, well, I don't want to admit that I failed and all this other stuff. So I think there's a whole lot in there. But the reason I think that most people whose businesses aren't successful is because they have underestimated the amount of work. And then they take that to mean I'm not meant to do this. Right. They take oh, this is hard. And all of a sudden it means maybe I'm just not meant to be an entrepreneur because everybody else, because we think, oh, it's just hard for me because everybody else on Instagram says it's real easy.
Right. But that's not true. That's sort of where the marketing's gone over the last, I would say 10 years with this, is that instant gratification, 6 figures in 6 months. Like that is not realistic for a sustainable business. And I can't tell you how many times that I literally cried, quit working for the day, said, I'm done, I'm going to get a job. And then I woke up the next morning and it's like new day, new way. And you have to be like that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But I mean, it's the same, but that's where we're sold this, everything is perfect all the time. It's not, because you had those days as an employee too. I don't know about you. I did when I cried in my office on my way home and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I just threw things. I hated my life when I worked in corporate America. I didn't hate it all, but I remember one day giving my boss my doll. He had a headache and I gave him my doll and he came in the next day and he said, oh my God, what did you give me? That was amazing. And I said, it was my doll. And he was literally like, do that again and you're fired. You just told me it was the best experience of your life. Come on.
So you asked me earlier the question, and we kind of only got a little far into it. Why are people doing this? Why are people leaving? Mm-hmm. I think part of the reason they're leaving is the unrealistic expectations of workload.
Yes. And feeling undervalued.
Yeah. The people, I talk to people and just what they are expected to do for the pay. And I'll use this example of my husband. My husband worked for, my husband actually now stays home. We retired him, I don't know, about 1.5 years ago now. And he worked and the guy is such a nice guy. Like, I'm not bagging on this guy at all. Like, lovely human, has a good heart. He's an entrepreneur. He's ambitious. And like, the work that my husband was doing in a day for what he was paid was out of control.
Yeah.
Out of control. Like, what his output was based on like how it impacted the bottom line of the business was completely imbalanced. And like, I think that was part of like, that's how I finally sold him on it. I'm like, this is insane. Like, he would literally come home being like, I still have X number of hours to get done tomorrow. Like, he would be stressed out on the weekends because of all the stuff that was waiting for him on Monday morning. And like, what the workload was based on what he was making was insane. So I think that that's part of the reason why people are leaving too, is that we have this unrealistic expectation of what somebody can accomplish in a day, and then tied directly to their compensation. It's just imbalanced when somebody can work a fraction of the time as a freelancer and make the same amount of money.
Yeah, that's so true. My entire business is run on freelancers. We do not have any full-time employees. It's all project-based. And it's all merit-based as well. If you're doing a good job, you're going to get more projects. If you're not, then you're probably going to see a drop-off in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So, it's a way for people to get out there that really have an expert skill. Sure. to make themselves known and work on a project basis instead of that hourly, whatever that is. Because I think a lot of people, even though they're paying more in the marketplace now, I would imagine with all of the employees needed, it's probably a big workload.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, I see it all the time from the women I talk to. They'll come to me and they'll be like, yeah, I'm working this many hours. I'm doing this things. I'm commuting this far. I just think there's a giant mismatch of what that looks like. And again, that's part of my mission, is to change that. Like, my people, I want them to come to work. I want them to work their butts off, but I want them to be well compensated. And I want them to go home at night and enjoy their families, because what's the point if that's not what we're doing here?
Yeah. I think what I love about the project-based so much is I literally can put out an assignment and I'll wake up in the morning and it's done. And for me, that's exciting, because it's like, oh, and they can work, it's not that morning person, evening person type of thing. They work when they want to work. And as long as they get the work done, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win for everybody as far as that goes. So you have a new book coming out soon.
I do.
We might as well pump it now. It's not up on Amazon yet, but if you're someone who is a part of this new entrepreneurial world, her book is a huge help. It's aimed at teaching basic skills to basic sales skills. So you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. So the book is called The 100K Sales Method. And it is very specifically written for the brand new entrepreneur. And it is just the basic sales skills, the networking skills, the how to, because again, just because you have a skill set, you did it in the corporate world, that was your job. Maybe say you were, a marketing coordinator. The gal I talked to this morning, she's a marketing coordinator, right? Like the work came to you, right? Somebody was bringing you the work. Right. So now, like, you still want to be marketing coordinator, but you have to go get the work. So it's all about, the mindset shifts that we have to make to stop viewing ourselves as employees and become entrepreneurs. It talks about, really building a network. We talk a little bit about sales versus marketing. I talk a little bit about hustle. I know that hustle has been vilified in the world right now, but in the beginning, it all takes a little bit of hustle, right? So it's just a really practical book. I pull no punches. I'm very direct and to the point. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. I wish I'd had a book like this back when I started. I think we're finding so much that when we can close deals and be really great out in the world, that the referrals start coming in. And I know you talk a lot about not relying so much on social media and being human to human. And that's I think where a lot of us are going to go back to, are just those basics of how to get business the right way and connect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.
Sounds great.